Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov, and welcome to today's lecture on YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about a fantastic topic. I don't believe that I've had that kind of lecture made before. So I'm going to be talking about, ultimately, how do you save losing positions? Okay, now, first of all, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Valeri, I would like to know how to avoid these kind of positions, not so much how to save them. Truth is, indeed, you do want to know how to avoid them. But every once in a while, it happens that we can't, and this is a bit unfortunate. We just cannot avoid getting in a bad position. So what do you do in order to stay away from losing? How do you sometimes even turn these positions to your favor and you get to win? Today, we're going to talk about these key elements and how you can apply them in your games once you get in trouble, if you get in trouble. The first game I'd like to start is one of my favorites from the latest training course of Grandmaster Kosintseva. So actually, it's if you want to check it out, it's offered at a fantastic discount on the link below the video. But she provided a couple of brilliant games from her own practice. Terrible games that she managed to save, and I would like to start with that. First, we're going to take a look at a game that she played versus Grandmaster Le Quangliem. So, talk about that game and learn from it as well. The game started with the moves of d4, d6. So we can flip the board to see this from black side. Bishop g4, g6, and knight f6. Now, this is not the opening that I like to play. Usually, when we have g6, we don't want to have the bishop in g4, as it can be driven away or exchanged or pushed back. So usually, it's not very good. So, but nevertheless, after the move of pawn up to the h3, now black has to eventually exchange the bishop or run back, as he can't go to h5 due to g4, which is really why I'm not a great fan of the idea of playing to the bishop to g4. So anyway, white did not attack the bishop. He played bishop d3. He did it on the next move, and now black played bishop c8. I don't want to talk so much about this game, about that opening, because it was bad. The key topic is the middle, and especially what happened after black got herself in trouble. So there was a castling, and after that move, white played rook e1, knight c6, d5, and knight b8. This is totally horrible. I mean, at least in my opinion. There were certain ideas that were involved with those moves, but obviously going back and forth with the bishop and back and forth with the knight is not going to be such a great idea. So why did black play that in the first place? Well, it is my belief, my humble belief, that she just wanted to play it, originally. And yet, when you break the principles, when you break the rules, things just go bad quite often. So anyway, after that, white played knight f1, c6, c4, and e6. This approach is played so that black could challenge white's middle and eventually get to exchange some of those pawns that are pretty well standing. So I wouldn't say that it is good, and I wouldn't say that it is bad. It's quite fine. Let's put it this way. Anyway, after the move of e6, white played d takes to the e, bishop takes to the e, knight g3, and knight a6. In some way, it looks like black has resolved the problem with the opening. He's able to quite quickly grab some of the better squares for his pieces. And, I mean, why not? Let's just take the chance to set the knight right up. Maybe we can get a resource of knight c5, queen c7, rook d8, and so on and so forth. So it definitely makes good sense. Sure, that's what he did. And shortly after that move was played, of course, white continued with bishop g5. Made sense. Pretty good candidate. Let's do it. So what happens really here? The opening is usually the stage where we create a bad formation. This is how you actually can get yourself in trouble really quick, by simply setting up your pieces and the pawns wrongly and not even realizing that it is so wrong. It's just easy to fall under that type of impression. Okay, maybe I'm okay. Your truth is you're not. So after the move of bishop to the g5, as it actually went, as it happened in this moment. So what did he do in this position? So like, I think the key is now that black plays queen b6. He's ready to do knight c5. He's ready to attack against the b2. He's ready to develop. So things are fine. b1, queen c7, here rook e8 and rook d8. So what's the issue? All the pieces are in place. The knight is also going to be getting ready for the c5. Things are good. And indeed, they almost look like it. So what did white do? Actually, after that last move did happen, white picked up to make queen d2. Rook e7, rook d1, knight e8. And this is where we realize that things are starting to look bad for black. It's not so much because, in general, the position is bad looking. It is bad looking. But the thing that black really suffers by is the fact that he is being attacked terribly against the d6. Every important piece that he would usually like to have now happens to be at a terrible place, back down, passive, and horrible. And we see the real problem. It's not so much that black is passive. Okay, now this is definitely a little bit of a problem. Okay, it's the fact that there's really nothing that he can do. Like, there's no sequence or something that will help. Now every piece of black being on the downside defending, it's awful. And so it's actually quite good, because as black went down passively backward and everything, this was great for white. So he's going to do a lot of things. Knight e8, b4, rook d7, a3. Very good support, excellent development, and it all fits in the position wonderfully. I guess that's what white wanted. I mean, in the end of the day, what else he can think of? It's a perfect support, really good defenses, an easy way to advance, to have the the b4 defendant, and it's great. So after a3, black plays bishop e5, bishop e3, and knight g7. This, of course, sets black up for f5. But now you see the formation is actually everything. Now, why would I say so? Because the structure of your pieces in the development is going to force you to play in a very specific way with every piece. So like now what we have is the black rooks down there that are being blockaded, and a couple other pieces that just make no difference. This is a very bad looking position, very bad looking situation for him. So what happens next? Well, not a whole lot for black. It simply goes up with his knight, following it through on the d4, and now he's actually ready. He can think about moves like knight takes d6 and a couple others that are pretty easily to make. So what's coming next? Bishop takes g3, f takes g3, and f6. The problem, and the main reason why I think black is going to find himself in trouble real soon, is that he stays here. One of the rules is never stay in the bad position. Why? Because if you stay in the bad position, things will go bad. You may want it or you may not want it, and it really doesn't matter. You are going to be passive, and this will affect the position in every very positive possible way, negatively. So that was actually the reason. So, and then what's coming out of this? I mean, like, obviously black's in a deep trouble with his pieces down there. He's away. So white played with the move of bishop to the d3, and right after bishop to the d3 is played, black plays rook f7. I think a white was looking for a way to make the move of pawn to the d5 happen. There's just no easy way to, continue with that. So, like, actually, this is very interesting. No possibility to follow up in this, or attack out there. Okay, so actually, that's a big problem. Rook f7, playing passively, continuing to play passively, which is horrible. And then white does rook f1, queen e7, g4. So let's say that you got yourself in this position. It's not good. Apparently, it's not good. But you got yourself into this. There's nothing much you can do. You put yourself in this situation. Yeah, you have to figure it out. So how do we play along a situation or side like this? Now, the first thing that you might want to do, very important kind of move, actually, is you would want to remember that rule number one about those kind of positions. The rule number one is do not allow any permanent vulnerabilities inside your territory. Your opponent is going to try to do anything in order to force you to create weaknesses. You do not want to do any. If you make a weakness, this is going to turn into something pretty bad. And, just that is very, this is not a good thing. So what do we do next? Okay. So after that kind of a move, then black played with the move of bishop to the c8. And after that, if white played the move g5. So that's what's happening in that moment as soon as white plays g5. I mean, the first thing is white's really breaking open the position. He breaks through, ready to attack and do anything. This is awful. Just look at that. This is an awful sequence for us. It's going to break down, open up the attack, and do anything. What do we have? Not much, really. Not a whole lot. This is the problem. If we had something that should have been earlier, but not right now. Right now, it's bad already. So what do we do? Given the bigger problems that we're having, this is not a cool position to talk about with the g5. There is a pressure. There is an attack. So I'd like you to think. Again, do not try to figure something big. Just think about the situation, the best move that black has to come up with, and the right idea that he must follow in that specific situation. What is the proper move he's got to do? Or what's the proper idea he's got to follow? Let's put it this way. If I have to be honest, there are many moves and many ideas we could follow, but not all of them are as good. So let's talk about this. Being under pressure requires you to do one thing. Stay safe. I mean, that sounds crazy when I say it like that, but truly, that is your only goal. Try to stay safe. With the move of rook to the f8, what we realize is that black is taking on a move that looks crazy at first, and yet what it does is that it provides him with the ability to solidify. This is a really great move because then we can actually find out that if white plays with g takes f, probably black can play rook takes f6, and things are not that bad. So white played g takes f. Now black plays with the move of rook takes f6. A really nice kind of move. And then we could see that in case of the capture, there's going to be the move of queen takes f6, which is good. Rook takes f here, and of course, have the exchange. Yes, black is not in a good position. Yes, it feels like he's almost going to lose any second now. Everything feels against black. And yet, he's all right. How can that be? Why would he be all right here? He's all right because of the one major point, I'd say. No immediate advantage can be taken by white. This means like he has no immediate way to pose a serious trouble or a serious damage towards black's position. So that's good. White plays bishop to f4 right now. And see, now we can play with the move of rook to f6. So this is very important. After continuing with this type of move, then we have the defense on the d6. And actually, that's great. So we have good defense. And we have a nice possibility to think about maybe knight to the h5 out there. And this is very, very important. Okay, well, that's great. Let's take a look. So after this move, then white played rook to the e1. Okay, so rook e1. What to do next? It's a very interesting position. So we got nice control. And I got to say, things are good, especially when we see that rook, the queen, most of our pieces are perfect looking. Do you have any suggestions on what black should do? Take a second. Let's think about that. Knight b8 maneuvering, not a very good idea. I really don't think that this is better. Going back with the knight is a passive move. So anything else? Knight c7 too, but this looks really bad. Queen f7 is what we can make. Truth is, she played queen f8. Small improvement. Sets up the queen and the rook on the line, but it does well. If white plays bishop g5, of course, there's rook f7, knight e6. You don't improve the position in one move, okay? This is really important. You do not do it in one move. But what you could do is actually just think about, stabilizing, getting everything right. We can have, in case he actually plays with bishop g5, rook f7, then there is the move of maybe after the exchange take. It's a great move. It's a really nice position. And after queen f8, white played bishop h2. So things don't look so bad. Gotta say that I feel pretty strong about the way on how black is placed here. His pieces look good. And in fact, the challenge that black is in some way creating versus white also looks quite decent. So what should black try or do in this position now? This is interesting and good. It's well set. Development's perfect. Anyone? Let's see. What do you guys think? Queen f7 because it eyes c4. Yeah, but c4 is very naturally defended. So we really don't have the chance to attack against him just yet. What else could black do right now? Knight c7. Of course. That's the move. Now the knight is actually moving itself right through. So it can go around in the position. It can go through the c7 to the square of e6. And then if he exchanges, eventually we can recapture with our bishop. We could set it out against the c4 pawn. Maybe even the queen can move alongside. It's a great looking idea. Step by step, that's how we need to do it. I love that move. See, and everything with it, really, just if you think of it, it's very stable, very good to think about. What about white? Well, he's not bad, but he doesn't have that many opportunities, actually, in my opinion. So we have great resources. Knight c7. Again, don't give him any shots. He'll try. You do not want to allow anything. So we do it great. Now white just played like this. And so after white plays alongside this way with knight to f3, we're actually continuing with the move. And so there are a couple moves that black could do, but then he played with knight e8. This would have been impossible to do if it wasn't for the idea that white doesn't have any threats. It's funny, but it's really just like that. It's no threats. If no threats, no possibilities can happen. So good job. Yeah, so we can see the value of it all. White played e5, breaking through, and it made a good sense actually. Why not break through with the e5, give the pawns and the rest of the pieces chance to attack? It's a good, strong-looking idea. So you could stay stable and try to what I would call consolidate your position for quite a bit. That's good. It's really good. But you got to know that it's only going to work to a certain extent. It's only going to go to a point where basically you say, all right, I know that it's good, but now I can't continue with that no more. So what do? When the tactics or tactical sequences happen, I think that the very first thing that you need to do is to look at ways on how to maintain that control. That means constantly keep an eye at anything that he can do or he'll try to do to attack you. And if he cannot do anything that's special, it's actually we have that possibility to follow. So, for example, after continuing with the move of c5, and then we could see bishop to the e6 here, and then after that we play rook d7, bishop d6, knight takes d6, knight takes d6, knight takes d6, queen a2, knight to the f7, and we have a perfect position. Less to worry, more things to do. We have a stable structure. And then after the move of knight to the f7, white's really not in the condition to make anything, even if he captures on the e6. Yeah. What I think is very interesting is that however hard white really tried to break open, he just couldn't do it. Even if he takes on the e6 right now, there's still nothing to care about. You're saving a position that looked awful by simply not giving the opponent a chance to transform that advantage into something much bigger. And that is, by itself, good enough. So we could win. Now it takes f7, queen d8. White pushes, black captures. Yes, white continues the attack. See, white is really trying very hard to break in the black position, and he does. Unfortunately, it just isn't too much he can do. So black simply moves the king out of the way. He could even think about moving the queen out to, say, a square like f6 or d5. And it is great. It's brilliant. Step by step, we're making it work perfectly. White did bishop c4, queen g5. Check. Queen f6, queen e4, queen g5. Yeah, I mean, prove it. We say to white, prove that you can try to win. Unfortunately, there's no way on how he could prove it. There is bishop d5, rook d7, rook to the d1, queen e5, exchanging, and knight takes to the e5 in this type of position. And then we could see that now there's that knight that's setting up, have that rook that's actually challenging against the opponent on the d5, and we have the maybe even our king can move on to the f6 towards the g5 and everything. So we are perfect. Stepping up, getting ready. This is wonderful. White plays king f2, c7, king e3, knight d7. Moves the pawn right up, capturing there, king d4 and check. But truth is, it doesn't really matter. It's just that all those moves are only going to help us to get that knight forward into check. Pawn goes up, rook goes down, and we just keep on going. So It's fine. Black never missed the idea of being active. He always stood out very actively with each and every one of his pieces, and that just matters a lot. It's perfect. That king and the rook, they're perfect. The rest of the pieces also feel like it. It's wonderful. It's really good. What about white? I mean, I don't know. What about white? White doesn't get to say much here or do much here. Really, that's the problem, I'd say. And yeah, so it's just, of course, you cannot lose. That's not a bad position for white, but yeah, black certainly has his own ways to go and grab the advantage, grab the possibilities. Rook a2, h4, king goes up, pawn goes fourth, couple of checks, and surely once the white king moves out of the way, we're gonna get our king towards the g2 and h2. It's great. It's wonderful. So that's it. This is how it worked, actually. So one of the really interesting things to talk about in this game, so it was equal here, obviously we cannot win, is that if you follow that one rule in bad positions, which is making sure that you don't give your opponent the ability to actually transform his advantage, then you can be very successful. So this is good. That's what black did. All that time from the very beginning after the terrible opening, it's to this drawish position, it was just one thing, really securing the position and making sure we're ready. So let's go. I mean, going back, look at how that happened. A bad opening, things went terrible, but then in order to do everything, black just consolidated. He gathered everything in the right places, and he stabilized, preventing white from being able to create any significant threats or transform his advantage with anything else than just a more active position. And that worked. It worked and it helped. So that was it. Now let's take a look at another example that was from the games of Grandmaster Kotsintseva. Now, one of the things is, once again, I'd like to suggest you, if you get a chance, check the video, check the link below this video, which provides 50% discount to the fantastic course, Kotsintseva method, that she released some years ago. It's only available for the next few hours, and I think it's brilliant. It's like 15 hours of training. You can get a lot out of it. So I do recommend you to take a look at that and try to study it as much as you can. So now I'm going to bring another really instructive game to begin with. Now this was a game that was actually played by Capablanca. Capablanca is amazing. He was one of the greatest defensive and prophylactic chess players ever. So in this game, he was actually playing with black versus Salo Floor. This is a classic, so take a look at it. After the conventional Queen's Gambit, that's not so interesting to discuss really. Black played the move c5 with an intention of course, challenging against the white center. So it seemed to help. After that, what did c takes d, knight takes d, exchange, takes, trade here, and bishop to the d3. It seemed good for white. Looks like he's able to gather his pieces, probably create a bit of a challenge on that line. Not a problem. And then, right after that last move, of course, black picked up to do c takes to the d and queen b4 check. I have to say that black's approach was a little too aggressive. Again, we'd prefer to play a lot more, like solid and consistent and without, just pushing all our pieces forward like that. Even though it was not that bad, after all. But yeah, black should have certainly played it a little more carefully. Anyway, after knight c5, bishop to the b5 move was played. Black did an exchange, and now we have to defend a rather tough endgame. This is tricky. This is really tricky because it's not just about the fact that black has a passive light square bishop on other pieces that don't fit the area. It's also the fact that we don't have that much to do. See, so it's tricky. With that bad bishop, with those horrible looking rooks at the moment, it is almost impossible to figure out any immediate breakthrough or a way to take advantage or do something. So it's a good question what to do here. It's really a very, very good question. Tricky. So what should black do? Well, the move that he picked up to do was a6. You have to understand that any attack is usually based on one thing: active pieces. If your opponent's ever going to make an attack successful, he would usually like to make his pieces more active and thereby much more dangerous. Like, so what we're doing in this case as black is we're taking the opportunity to ultimately push him back. So that's a good thing. A little candidate driving him down and taking the shot to challenge. So it was a nice move. What happens next? That's a really good question. After the move of a6, white played bishop to the d3, and bishop e6 sets up black's pieces in a good position. So yes, we don't have anything major to worry about. It's good. May not be perfect, but it's definitely good. For right now, that's what we need. Okay, so bishop a6, rook to c1. Okay, that makes sense. It's a great way to go for. I think that at the moment, at least, the position is fairly all right. So what's going on next? Bishop here, rook c8. Second thing, focus on the area of the board where your opponent is trying to penetrate through. This was very valuable because we see that in this case, white was actually trying very hard to penetrate, well, white is trying very hard to penetrate to the queen side. So we just play rook c8 and we gather more pieces around there. So that's what we're doing. It's a very, very good move. Things are good. And maybe we can even plan on having the king around to f8. And so that's really great. Step by step, let's do it. White played rook c2. And now knight takes d3. Not a really great move. Now, why would I say so? I'd say so because actually you have to compare pieces. I think one of the best ways to do that is when you really think about a couple different pieces and you try to think about each of them to the other in comparison to the other. Now, if we really think about the queen, sorry, the knight, as opposed to whites, you get to see this huge difference. I mean, let's face it, white's bishop doesn't do anything. Our knight does basically everything that it would like to do, and it continues to be as powerful as it stands. So this is a beautiful position. Do we really wish to make an exchange like this? Not really. Comparing helps a lot. In my opinion, mostly because it can help you to decide if you actually wish or you do not to play a move of that kind. I think that was the biggest problem of white, that he sort of went through with the tactic too quickly. Take the time, build the position, build the preparation before you play it. I think that what would have been a great idea, most likely, in this position would have been the move of g6, most likely, or b6, but g6 would seem good. Knight takes d3 went way too quick. King takes d3, rook takes the c, then white just takes, and then after king f8, king d2 is played. He loves the idea of just getting that king out there, and yeah, we don't have much more. So one of the really interesting things you have to remember is that exchanges are huge. If you're thinking about an exchange, you better make sure that it is right, that it is something that will help you, that will give you a winning advantage or whatever it is. Because now we're only left with backward pieces downside development, and a whole lot of extra problems. So rook c8, rook c1 here, and now white played king takes to the c1. This move, king to the d2 there, and king c3. It just keeps improving. Everything is possible. There is nothing that white can do in this position. So we can find out that white's got this strong knight. He has got the power of his pieces, and it's not very good for us. So how do we defend a position like this? It was Capablanca, and you might argue, all right, Capablanca is Capablanca, and I mean when he's Capablanca, he's going to be able to save it. But no. There are techniques that can allow you to defend a position like that really well. And those type of techniques will help you also to figure out the most important, like to ask yourself and think about the most important questions you need. So what's the first question we want to go with? Okay. The first question is, begin with the query, how do I, big question, how do I make sure that I do not hurry? This move of pawn to the b6 was wonderful. For one, it's because it waits. And secondly, it doesn't rush the position forward. That's one of the things that you'd like to do in this type of position. So wait, do not rush, give yourself the opportunity to solidify the position. And so we've got an excellent setup. Now, basically white played with the move of f4. And then actually after the move of pawn to the f4, we have the move of bishop to the d7. It's a nice stable move. Things are good. White can't break through or do anything on the king side just yet. So we have things really well set. White played the move of knight f3 and f6. Again, I know it's a bad bishop, it's a bad king, and other things also look pretty bad for black. But the good thing is that there is no immediate way on how white can win. And as long as we stay away from creating any major weaknesses, as you will see, that's the first thing that black is doing, white cannot convert it. So a5 is actually what happened. Very good idea. Cool thing. White's probably going to try certain things, but he's not able to do much more. Okay, white played knight at the d2, bishop to the c8 here, and now bishop to e6. Knight c3, king c6. What is great about this position is the inability for white to make any serious tactics. We just take it for what it is. We take the position. We have the d5 where we're fairly well defended, and it's great. So what's really happened afterwards in this position? a3. Probably he just wanted to go for b4 and expand. If he plays with b4, we can, in case of the trade, we got he's got 8x to the b. So it makes sense to play like that. And black played h6. Little by little, one step at a time. Here, h5. b4, 8x to the b, 8x to the b. And actually, after that move is played, then, of course, we've got king to the d6. What is so interesting is that we have not just the defense, which is quite important, but everything in terms of stability, control, and resources. We got a solid challenge. We have a solid defense around there. No tactical things that white can do, I think, in this position. And maybe black can even think about g5 or whatever. I don't know. Looks good though. For at least for right now, feels like an excellent position. So, what did white do? Well, he actually picked up to do the move of b5. Getting ready. g6. Knight a4. King c7. Step by step, running down to manage the protection. Things look good. And so, after that's done, white played knight c3. King d6. f5 is a break. g takes f. Well, I have to say, That does not look so bad. We have a bad bishop. I mean, uh, we've got a bad bishop. We've got terrible looking pieces. And yet there is nothing that white can do, at least not this moment. So why bother? If we have everything pretty stable and solid, we can do almost anything else. We can get that, pawn, whatever. Yes, let's do it. So what came out after that? G takes F, knight to the E2, and then black played bishop to the D7. Knight F4, bishop E8. Now you can see white's strong attempt to break through. Okay, he made a very strong attempt to break through, and it makes a good sense here because of that type of move, he is not just pushing us back, but making us to worry and defend and all that. And so it's not entirely great here, but because of the defenses and because of the fact that he's being a little threatened here on the b5, we have everything under control. Nice challenge, good defense, and nice stronger possibility. So let's see. Things look good now. White played this. So what are we going to do? What should black try to do? Bishop takes b5. Knight takes b6 here. And then after knight check, king e6. There's a great looking bishop, the light square bishop, that is on a brilliant diagonal. We've got the white king, which I think is not that excellent. We have our king, that's wonderful. And again, there's no breakthrough. Once again, we really come down to that major point. Is there or is there not a breakthrough? And there is no breakthrough at the moment. At least there doesn't seem to be. Okay, so actually, this looks great. So there, white played knight to the b. Okay, so he actually chose to play with the move of knight back to the b1. But then black played bishop to b5. And it's wonderful. Step by step, we're really taking on some of the best squares for each of our pieces. And we have the control. We can think about bishop to the e2. We can do other things. It's a great move. So let's do it. Wonderful position, great resources, and nice ways to play it. No need to trouble. No, there's no trouble. There's no need to worry about any tactics. White played knight d1, bishop e2 here, bishop f1, exchange, and king e5. Step by step, let's just go that route. Just keep going. King is perfect, white's back and a little behind. So it's just good. I mean, is it wonderful? Yeah. I mean, given the kind of position that we had to defend, it is wonderful in my opinion. But really, this is what we're looking for. After king e5, white played king right back there, and then king e4, h3, king e5, king e5. Let's just stay around. You see, this is what we want to do. We do not want to break open and do anything special. We just want to stay and feel, the power, the good things about your pieces. And it was great. The king stands good. White doesn't have anything dangerous to do, like he can't pass to f4. It was a horribly played game. From the beginning to the end, it was almost the most awful type of game. But it worked. It did work brilliantly. Why? Well, it was a couple reasons, really, why. But the most important of all these reasons was that black was able to, combine, most importantly, he was able to deliver a very good defense with 3 rules. First rule, and obviously, the exchange was bad. So we're not talking about the exchange and whether it could have been better or not. It was not a good exchange. Okay. First thing that did not work too well was the move. Okay, so rook takes the c2, king takes the c2, king d2, rook c8. The more exchanges black did, the worse it kind of got. But from that point on, he remembered what I've got to do is just to make sure that I don't let the opponent to break through and open. I don't want to let him to move inside my position and come into my territory. Because White obviously wasn't able to do that, he wasn't having any breakthrough. And because of that lack of breakthrough, despite all the different weaknesses and challenges and tactical things that White was hoping to get, he never succeeded. This is a really interesting way to think about this. White never got the chance to succeed. He never had a real resource, a real breakthrough, or whatever. So I personally think that was an interesting game, fairly good by Black, well played, and yeah, overall, not a whole lot to be said except that Black had a very good game for the most part, were powerful possibilities. So that's my these are just my major thoughts about this. And so my main idea for defending is stay stable, make sure you cover your weaknesses and you consolidate the position, and do not let your opponent to create threats. Try to avoid these three things. Got to follow those three suggestions and you'll be good. Like once again, do not forget to check Grandmaster Kosintsev's new video course, which actually she released just some time ago. It's a brilliant video course. It has some wonderful, concepts and principles and ideas that you can learn from. So do check it out whenever you get a chance. And I'll speak to you next Saturday at the same time with another very instructive topic that you can learn a great deal from. Thank you so much for following me today, and I'll speak to you next time.